Karen Mitchell thought she had the perfect plan. Fake some tears, play the victim, and walk away with $15,000 from her neighbor's pocket. What she didn't know was that the cameras were already rolling when she practiced her breakdown in the courthouse bathroom, muttering to herself about working these old judges with waterworks. But here's what will blow your mind. Judge Judy had already seen the footage before Karen even stepped foot in that courtroom. Before we dive into this incredible case, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing where my viewers are around the world. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss more unbelievable cases like this one. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. The legendary courtroom of Judge Judy Scheindlin buzzed with its usual energy. The iconic wood-paneled walls, the packed gallery of onlookers, and the bright television lights created an atmosphere where truth and lies collide daily. For 25 years, this had been America's ultimate arena of justice, where Judge Judy's razor-sharp instincts cut through deception faster than a hot knife through butter. Today, those instincts were about to be put to the ultimate test. Karen Mitchell strutted through those courtroom doors with the confidence of someone who believed she'd crack the code. A serial lawsuit filer with a history of manufactured complaints, she'd spent weeks perfecting what she called her guaranteed win strategy. In her purse sat a pack of tissues, strategically placed. In her mind played a rehearsed script of emotional manipulation, designed to tug at heartstrings and open wallets. She'd studied other court cases, watched emotional breakdowns, and practiced her performance until she believed it was flawless. But Judge Judy Scheindlin wasn't just any judge. She was a woman who'd built her reputation on one unshakable principle: spotting liars before they even opened their mouths. As Karen took her place at the plaintiff's table, she had no idea that her entire scheme was about to unravel in the most spectacular fashion imaginable. The security footage from the courthouse bathroom was sitting right there on Judge Judy's desk, and what it revealed would turn Karen's manipulation attempt into a masterclass in instant justice. What happened next would be replayed millions of times across the internet, becoming the gold standard for how real authority handles fake victimhood. In just 36 seconds, Karen's carefully crafted lies would crumble. Her fake tears would dry up, and she'd learn why Judge Judy remains television's most feared defender of truth. If you want to see entitled people get what they deserve, smash that subscribe button, because this channel delivers justice served cold every single day. Trust me, what's coming next will restore your faith in the system. Karen Mitchell wasn't your average courthouse visitor. She was what courthouse staff privately called a frequent flyer, someone who'd turned filing lawsuits into a twisted art form. Over the past 3 years, she'd filed 17 different cases against neighbors, local businesses, and even her own apartment complex. Her specialty? Manufacturing emotional distress claims that were just believable enough to force settlements rather than lengthy court battles. Most defendants would rather write a check than deal with the circus Karen brought to their doorstep. This time, her target was Harold Peterson, a 73-year-old widower who lived next door with his golden retriever, Max. Harold had adopted Max after his wife passed away 2 years earlier. Finding comfort in the dog's gentle companionship during his loneliest hours, Max was well-trained, rarely barked, and spent most of his time quietly lying in Harold's backyard, providing the kind of peaceful presence that helped an old man cope with grief. But Karen saw an opportunity where others saw innocence. Her complaint painted a picture of psychological torment that would make Shakespeare weep. According to her meticulously crafted narrative, Max's incessant barking had destroyed her sleep, ruined her work-from-home productivity, and caused her to develop anxiety so severe she needed therapy. She claimed the dog barked from dawn to dusk, creating a living nightmare that had forced her to take medication and consider moving. The emotional distress, she argued, was worth exactly $15,000 in damages. Karen had done her homework. She'd researched similar cases, studied what language triggered sympathetic responses, and even consulted with a lawyer friend about the most effective ways to present emotional trauma claims. She knew that judges, especially television judges, were often moved by genuine displays of human suffering. Her strategy was simple but calculated. Start strong with the facts, then transition into a carefully orchestrated emotional breakdown that would make her seem like the innocent victim of a cruel neighbor's negligence. The night before the court appearance, Karen had practiced her performance in front of her bathroom mirror for over an hour. She timed when to let her voice crack, when to dab at her eyes with tissues, and when to pause for dramatic effect. She studied videos of real people crying, noting how their faces changed, how their breathing patterns shifted, how their voices trembled. She even practiced the specific words she would use: "Your Honor, I just can't take it anymore. This has destroyed my life." But Karen had made one fatal miscalculation. She assumed Judge Judy was like every other authority figure she'd manipulated over the years. Too busy, too tired, or too overwhelmed to dig deeper into the real story. She thought that emotion would trump evidence, that tears would overshadow truth. What she didn't understand was that Judge Judy had built her entire career on one foundational principle. Liars reveal themselves, and the best way to catch them is to give them enough rope to hang themselves. Judge Judy Shendlin had seen it all. In her quarter-century career, first as a family court judge in New York and then as television's most famous arbitrator, she'd encountered every type of manipulator, scammer, and con artist imaginable. She'd developed what court officers called the stare, a penetrating gaze that seemed to look directly into someone's soul and extract the truth by sheer force of will. More importantly, she'd learned to trust her instincts, those subtle warning bells that went off when someone's story didn't add up. As Judge Judy reviewed the case file that morning, those instincts were screaming. Karen's complaint was too perfect, too detailed in its emotional language and too vague in its factual specifics. The timeline didn't make sense. The supposed evidence was suspiciously lacking. And when she cross-referenced Karen's name in the court database, a pattern emerged that told a very different story than the one Karen was trying to sell. The real stakes weren't just about $15,000, or even about one woman's attempt to scam an elderly man. This was about something much bigger, the integrity of the justice system itself. Every fake claim, every manufactured crisis, every crocodile tear shed in pursuit of unearned money was an assault on the very concept of legitimate grievance. Judge Judy understood that allowing manipulators, like Karen, to succeed didn't just harm their immediate victims, it made it harder for people with real problems to be believed and helped. As the bailiff called the court to order, two very different people prepared for battle. Karen, convinced her performance would secure an easy victory. Judge Judy, armed with 25 years of experience and a growing suspicion that she was about to witness one of the most brazen attempts at courtroom manipulation she'd ever encountered. The collision between authentic authority and calculated deception was about to begin, and only one of them truly understood what was at stake. "This is a case about emotional distress caused by a neighbor's dog," Judge Judy announced, her voice carrying the authority that had made her a household name. "Ms. Mitchell, you're claiming $15,000 in damages. Mr. Peterson, you say this is completely fabricated. Let's start with you, Ms. Mitchell. Tell me about this dog." Karen straightened in her chair, her game face on. She'd rehearsed this opening dozens of times, knowing that first impressions mattered. "Your Honor, I've lived next to Mr. Peterson for 2 years, and his dog Max has made my life absolute hell," she began, her voice steady but tinged with practiced frustration. "This animal barks constantly, from 6 in the morning until late at night. I can't work, I can't sleep, I can't even have friends over because of the noise." Judge Judy's eyes narrowed slightly. In her experience, people telling the truth didn't usually start with such perfectly structured complaints. Real victims stumbled over words, got emotional too early, or focused on specific incidents rather than broad generalizations. Karen's delivery was too smooth, too rehearsed. "Define constantly," Judge Judy interrupted, leaning forward. "Are we talking every minute? Every hour? Give me specifics." Karen didn't miss a beat. "Well, not every single minute, but multiple times throughout the day, sometimes for hours at a time. I've documented over 50 incidents in the past month alone." She reached into her folder, pulling out what appeared to be a meticulously kept log. "I have dates, times, and descriptions of each barking episode." Judge Judy accepted the papers but didn't look at them immediately. Instead, she studied Karen's face. "You documented 50 incidents but didn't think to record any audio. No video evidence? In today's world where everyone has a smartphone?" A flicker of uncertainty crossed Karen's features, the first crack in her confident facade. I was usually too upset to think about recording. The emotional distress was overwhelming. Too upset to record but calm enough to write detailed log entries with precise timestamps. Judge Judy's tone was getting sharper. "That's interesting." She turned to Harold Peterson, who sat quietly beside his lawyer. "Mr. Peterson, how old is this dog?" Harold's weathered face showed genuine confusion and hurt. "Max is 8 years old, Your Honor. He's been with me since my wife passed 2 years ago. He's the gentlest animal you'd ever meet. Barely barks except when the mailman comes, and even then it's just a couple of woofs." "Does he stay outside all day?" "No, ma'am. Max spends most of his time inside with me. We go out for walks twice a day, and he might play in the yard for an hour or so, but he's usually right by my side." Judge Judy glanced back at Karen's supposed evidence, then fixed her stare on the plaintiff. Something was off about this whole story, and her 25 years of experience were telling her she was about to uncover something much bigger than a simple neighbor dispute. The real show was about to begin. "Ms. Mitchell, I'm looking at your log here," Judge Judy said, holding up the papers with a skeptical expression. "You claim this dog barked for 3 straight hours on March 15th, from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. That's very specific." Karen sensed her moment had arrived. This was the perfect setup for her grand performance. She took a shaky breath, her hand moving toward the tissue pack in her purse. Yes, Your Honor, that was one of the worst days. Her voice began to tremble on cue, exactly as she'd practiced. I was trying to work from home and the constant barking it broke something inside me. She dabbed at the corner of her eye, though no tears had actually formed yet. I called my mother crying that day, telling her I couldn't take it anymore. The stress has been overwhelming. Karen let her voice crack slightly, a technique she'd perfected after watching countless emotional courtroom scenes online. Your Honor, she continued, now fully committed to her performance, I just can't take it anymore. Right on schedule, she began what appeared to be an emotional breakdown. Her shoulders shook, her breathing became labored, and she pressed tissues to her eyes in dramatic fashion. This has destroyed my life. I can't sleep, I can't work, I've had to start taking anxiety medication, the gallery murmured sympathetically. A few audience members shifted uncomfortably in their seats, moved by what seemed like genuine anguish. Even Harold Peterson looked concerned, his elderly face showing confusion and worry that perhaps he'd somehow missed his dog's impact on his neighbor. But Judge Judy wasn't buying it. Not for a second. Years of observing human behavior had taught her to spot the telltale signs of manufactured emotion. Real crying rarely started and stopped so conveniently. Genuine distress didn't follow such perfect timing, and authentic victims didn't usually deliver their most emotional moments with such theatrical precision. Stop right there, Judge Judy commanded, her voice cutting through Karen's performance like a knife. Just stop. Karen's fake sobbing halted abruptly, caught off guard by the interruption. She looked up with confusion, still clutching her tissues but suddenly unsure how to proceed with her script disrupted. Ms. Mitchell, March 15th. The day you claim this dog tortured you for 3 straight hours. Do you know what's interesting about that date? Judge Judy's tone was dangerously calm, the kind of quiet that preceded a storm. Karen's eyes widened slightly, sensing danger but not knowing where it was coming from. No, Your Honor. It was just another terrible day with that dog. March 15th was the day Mr. Peterson took Max to the veterinary hospital for emergency surgery. The dog wasn't even in the neighborhood from noon until 7 p.m. that day. Judge Judy leaned back in her chair, her stare boring into Karen. So tell me again about those 3 hours of barking. The courtroom fell dead silent. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, her carefully rehearsed performance crumbling in real time. The silence in the courtroom was deafening. Karen's face had gone from theatrical grief to genuine panic in the span of seconds. Her tissues hung limply in her hands as she realized her carefully constructed lie had just exploded in her face. I must have gotten the date wrong, Karen stammered, her voice no longer carrying any trace of her practiced emotional tremor. There were so many incidents, they all blur together. Oh, they blur together? Judge Judy's voice was razor sharp now, loaded with the kind of authority that had made hardened criminals confess on the spot. Well, let me help clear up that blur for you. She reached under her desk and pulled out a manila folder that Karen hadn't seen before. The sight of it made Karen's stomach drop, though she didn't yet understand why. Ms. Mitchell, do you remember being in the courthouse bathroom about an hour ago? Judge Judy asked, her tone deceptively casual. Karen's eyes darted nervously. Yes, I used the restroom. So what? So what? Judge Judy repeated, opening the folder. So what is that our courthouse has security cameras in the hallways, including right outside the women's restroom? And those cameras have audio. The blood drained from Karen's face completely. Around the courtroom you could hear a pin drop as everyone leaned forward, sensing they were about to witness something extraordinary. Judge Judy continued, her voice building in intensity. At 1:47 p.m. you were recorded pacing in front of that bathroom mirror, and I quote, "Okay, Karen, just like you practiced. Start crying right after she asks about the worst day. Make sure to say you can't take it anymore. These old judges always fall for the waterworks." The courtroom erupted in gasps and murmurs. Harold Peterson's mouth fell open in shock while several audience members shook their heads in disgust. But here's my favorite part, Judge Judy said, her voice now dripping with controlled fury. You then said, and again I quote, $15,000 for some fake tears? This is easier than taking candy from a baby. Karen's fake composure completely shattered. Gone was any pretense of being a victim. Her face was flushed with embarrassment and rage at being caught so thoroughly. That's invasion of privacy. You can't use that. Oh, but I can and I did, Judge Judy shot back. You see, Ms. Mitchell, I've been doing this for 25 years. I've seen every scam, every manipulation, every crocodile tear in the book. But congratulations, you just earned yourself a spot in the Hall of Fame for pure, unadulterated fraud. Judge Judy leaned forward, her stare now laser-focused. Not only are you not getting $15,000 from this sweet old man, you're going to pay him $15,000 for emotional distress, court costs, and wasting everyone's time with your pathetic little performance. The gavel came down with finality. Total elapsed time from accusation to judgment. 36 seconds. Karen sat in stunned silence, her world crumbling around her. The 36 seconds that destroyed Karen Mitchell's scheme felt like an eternity to everyone watching. As Judge Judy's gavel echoed through the courtroom, Karen's face transformed from shock to pure, unfiltered rage. Gone was any pretense of being a victim. Now she was showing her true colors. "This is ridiculous," Karen exploded, jumping to her feet. "You can't do this to me. I have rights." But these weren't the calculated tears of her performance. These were the real tears of someone whose entire world had just collapsed. Her voice cracked with genuine emotion for the first time all day, though it was fury and humiliation rather than the sympathy she'd been fishing for. "Ma'am, you need to sit down," the bailiff warned, moving closer to Karen's table, but she was beyond reason now, waving her arms dramatically as the weight of owing $15,000 sank in. Judge Judy remained perfectly calm, watching Karen's meltdown with the detached interest of someone who'd predicted this exact outcome. "Ms. Mitchell, the only rights you have right now are the right to remain silent and the right to pay Mr. Peterson what you owe him." Harold Peterson sat in stunned relief, his weathered hands trembling slightly as he processed what had just happened. The elderly widower had walked into court terrified he might lose his life savings to this woman's lies. Now, not only was he vindicated, but he was being compensated for the months of stress Karen had put him through. The gallery erupted in spontaneous applause, something rarely seen in Judge Judy's courtroom. Audience members were on their feet, cheering for justice served and an innocent man protected. "Security, please escort Ms. Mitchell out," Judge Judy ordered, as Karen continued her tirade. "And Ms. Mitchell? Next time you want to practice your acting, try community theater. It's cheaper than my courtroom." As Karen was led away, still screaming about the unfairness of it all, Harold Peterson finally smiled for the first time in months. If this level of instant justice gets your blood pumping, hit that like button and let me know in the comments what other Karen encounters you want to see destroyed by facts and logic. The aftermath of Karen Mitchell's spectacular courtroom destruction rippled far beyond Harpo Studios that day. Within hours, the 36-second clip had exploded across social media platforms, racking up millions of views and becoming the gold standard for what happens when calculated manipulation meets authentic authority. But the real story wasn't just about one woman's failed scheme, it was about a principle that applies to every aspect of human interaction. Judge Judy's surgical dismantling of Karen's performance revealed something profound about the nature of truth in our modern world. In an era where social media has made everyone an actor, where manufactured outrage drives engagement, and where victim narratives can be monetized, authentic authority has become more valuable than ever. Judge Judy didn't need to raise her voice, didn't need to grandstand, didn't need to put on a show of her own. 25 years of experience spoke louder than any performance ever could. The lesson goes deeper than just, don't lie in court. It's about the fundamental difference between substance and style, between earned authority and manufactured credibility. Karen Mitchell spent weeks perfecting her act, studying other people's genuine pain and rehearsing emotional manipulation. But all her preparation crumbled in seconds when it met someone who had earned their wisdom through decades of real experience, not rehearsed performances. This principle extends far beyond courtrooms. In business, authentic leaders who've built their reputation through consistent results will always outlast those who rely on buzzwords and empty promises. In relationships, genuine care and consistent actions matter more than grand gestures and dramatic declarations. In personal development, real growth comes from facing hard truths about yourself, not from adopting whatever self-help trend promises the easiest transformation. Harold Peterson's vindication represents something equally important, the protection of genuine innocence in a world that often rewards the loudest complainers. His quiet dignity, his simple honesty about loving his dog after losing his wife, stood in stark contrast to Karen's calculated theatrics. He didn't need to perform his grief or manufacture his story because real emotion doesn't require rehearsal. The most powerful moment wasn't Judge Judy's devastating revelation about the bathroom recording. It was the silence that followed. That moment when everyone in the room, including Karen herself, recognized they had witnessed truth cutting through deception like a hot knife through butter. That silence represented something precious, the moment when authentic authority reasserts itself in a world full of noise. Karen's meltdown after the verdict was perhaps more revealing than her fake crying earlier. When her performance failed, her true character emerged, angry, entitled, unwilling to accept consequences for her actions. The contrast was stark. Fake tears followed by real rage. Manufactured victimhood followed by genuine fury at being held accountable. But here's what makes this story truly powerful. Judge Judy didn't destroy Karen out of cruelty. She did it out of necessity. Every fake claim that succeeds makes it harder for real victims to be believed. Every manufactured crisis that goes unpunished encourages more manipulation. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is refuse to enable destructive behavior, even when that refusal looks harsh from the outside. The broader truth is that authenticity always wins in the long run, but only when it's backed by competence and courage. Judge Judy's authority wasn't just about her title or her television show. It was about decades of consistent decision-making, of seeing through lies, of protecting the innocent and holding the guilty accountable. That kind of earned credibility can't be faked, bought, or performed into existence. Here's the lesson that will change how you see every interaction in your life. Authenticity beats manipulation every single time, but only when authentic people have the courage to stand up and speak truth. Judge Judy didn't need to be louder than Karen's fake tears, she just needed to be real. In a world full of performers, be the person with substance. In a culture that rewards the loudest victim, be the quiet voice of truth. And when you encounter manipulators trying to game the system, remember that the most powerful response isn't anger, it's simply refusing to play along with their act. What are you performing in your own life that needs to be replaced with genuine substance? Subscribe if you're ready for more reality checks that'll make you question every manipulation tactic you see around you. Because in the end, truth doesn't need a performance, it just needs a platform.